Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, good morning, Sushant. How are you doing?
Good morning, very well.
For all the listeners, I would like to start this talk with a few questions. So, do you feel fatigued very often? And do you always feel that you have mood swings, and because of fatigue, you're not able to do away with your personal chores? And do you always feel that this fatigue is taking over your life? And if that is the fact, then this talk is absolutely for those people who are having chronic fatigue syndrome. So this talk is specifically going to be about chronic fatigue. So Sushant, I would like to begin this talk with my first question. I would really like to know that chronic fatigue syndrome is something that many people experience. If I have to say, at least 30 to 40% of the people around the world, they do experience chronic fatigue. It could be more, but this is what I estimate based on my personal experiences and based on some of the data that I've read through. So, why is it that this syndrome gets undiagnosed?
See, there are two things here. First thing you have to understand there's a difference between fatigue and the chronic fatigue syndrome, right? So fatigue is something which you can have probably you have not consumed the right set of nutrients in a particular day, or you are burning too much of doing too much of exercise and you're not feeding your body well, or probably your body is going around some inflammation, right? That is causing fatigue. But chronic fatigue syndrome is entirely a different sort of, I'll say, multifactorial condition because it is linked to, your metabolic, immunologic, your endocrine, your mitochondrial, your skeletal abnormalities, right? And it is something, in simple words, it is something for people who are having fatigue for more than 6 months, and even if having right sleep, their fatigue is not going away, right? And as you rightly pointed, there are multiple symptoms. There is pain, headache, impaired memory. It people who have chronic fatigue syndrome also have irritable bowel syndrome, digestive issues, diarrhea, constipation. Muscle weakness, muscle wasting. Food intolerances, food allergies, right? And oxidative stress even post exercise, right? So these are some of the indications which are not, maybe probably having once or twice it's fine, but having continuously having these uh, signals from the body, you are suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, right? And frankly, as of now, what I have understood, a lot of people do not have solution. Again, yesterday I wrote about this also, that you know our body is is a symbiosis. So body is connected. It's ever evolving, interconnected, right? Every body organ, but the current system what we have today, we are treating every organ of the body as a separate part of this healthcare puzzle, right? Which is not the case. It's a hellebound whole, right? So essentially everything is concerned. So what happens in your pancreas impacts your kidneys, impact your heart, impacts your brain, impacts your gut, skin, a lot of these things. So you have to see how everything is interconnected. That's why, when we have these symptoms, uh, especially when it comes to chronic fatigue syndrome, so probably doctors would start giving medications for each of the symptoms, right? And it further amplifies the impact of chronic fatigue syndrome, right? There is a lot of very, very minuscule understanding of why it develops, how it develops, right? And that's why, uh, what we have found, and probably research has also found, that it has a deep linkage with your gut microbiome, right? And more so because people who are suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome have issues of constipation, bloating, diarrhea, abdominal pain, even risk of IBD and vice versa. So people who have these diseases also have, you know, the risk of chronic fatigue syndromes, CFS. So it is a lot of it is linked to your uh, functions and the genes expressed by your gut microbiome, right? And as I mentioned about, it is no brainer when you have food intolerance, food allergies, in people who have chronic fatigue syndrome. Again, it is linked to your intercell permeability, right? So there's a lot to be connected with gut microbiome. Today we are going to discuss what all pathways are activated in case or deactivated in case of people suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome.
So I think let us just begin with this pathways because it's very important for the people for their understanding that why it happens in our body. As you mentioned that it is related with gut microbiome. So could you just shed some light on how it is connected with the gut microbiome? And secondly, what are the pathways involved? And these pathways are not exactly the normal pathways that you go through in the blood works or whatever. It's actually related with
Mm,
your microbiome. Yeah.
yeah. So first thing is to understand the gut-brain connection, the gut-brain axis, right? I think we have shared this, and probably I would like to share. Before that, I would like to share one thing here because it is really it's a basic of microbiome. So how does microbiome play such an important role in our life, in our health, in our disease, right? So it starts even before we are born, right? So when we are passing through birth canal, we absorb a lot of gut and vaginal microbiome of our mother, right? And even after the birth, a lot of these microbes are passed through, from the breast milk to the child. Even the HMO or the oligosaccharides which are there in the breast milk are something which cannot be digested by the baby. It is metabolized by your gut microbiome, right? And again, uh, it is these microbes that work with immune system, help immune system differentiate between friend and foe. It contributes to the training and development of immune system and development of brain, right? So gut microbiome has a very vital role to play, right? So the gut-brain axis, when it comes to which is the gut-brain axis, interact with each other through immune system through various activation of cytokines or vagus nerve, right, which is a nerve which connects from your gut to from your brain to your gut, right, and it is like highway where a lot of these biochemical signals pass, and again indirectly also your gut microbiome gives a lot of signals via production of neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, GABA, right, melatonin. So a lot of these neurotransmitters are produced in the gut, right? Even 90% serotonin is produced in the gut, right? So people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, there isn't it impacts your it is because of the gut brain communication, gut brain axis, right? There isn't dysregulation gut brain axis, the communication is not falling in place. There's AOR in communication, right? Obviously we have discussed last time what the HPA axis, how it activates your cortisol and a lot of these things, right? So again, this communication bar in communication do cause this, uh, chronic fatigue syndrome, right? Which is again, it is also because of gut dysbiosis. Maybe it is taking too much of antibiotics, or probably you have symptoms you're taking a lot of these drugs, which is causing imbalance in the gut, or probably you're eating wrong food, which is making some of the microbes, produce pro-inflammatory chemicals, which is crossing the blood-brain barrier, going to the brain, right? So some of these are such as ammonia, right? Again, it is a byproduct of glutamine, and a lot of the amino acids, which if your microbiome is producing too much of ammonia, it crosses the blood-brain barrier and goes to brain, start doing inflammation. So again, there is a lot of these, you know, fatigue sets in, right? So that is one of the reasons why we have such as one is ammonia I mentioned, other is D lactic acid. It is again bacterial fermentation of a lot of carbohydrates, go again crosses your blood-brain barrier and start doing inflammation there, right? So this is one of the factors again. Our gut also produces bitrate, short-chain fatty acids, which is really, really essential in strengthening your gut lining, in regulating your blood sugar response, your satiety levels. It has also a role to play in prevention of cancer situations. So again, people who have, you know, CG, chronic fatigue syndrome have low bitrate producing bacteria and low bitrate production, right? Uh, Third thing is obviously lipopolysaccharides. Again, it is one of the endotoxin, which is released when we are taking too much of processed foods and sugar, right? And it causes adiposity, right? Um, as well as this uh, also is implicating the role of you know making your gut more uh, permeable. It leads to leaky gut. It allows bacterial translocation to different parts of the body, including your brain, right? And these all are biomarkers which are said to cause, chronic fatigue syndrome, right? And again, in people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, there is a low production of GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, which I really, really mentioned about, right? These are some of the pathways. Even microbes in your mouth is said to cause chronic fatigue syndrome. So people who have chronic fatigue syndrome have an high activity of Physiobacterium nucleatum as well, which is a rural bacteria, which is also said to cause IBD and colon cancer, right? There's a deep-rooted connection between digestive issues and chronic fatigue syndrome. So again, people who have this multifunctional condition also may be bedridden, may have impaired memory, right? Again, it is all linked to your neurotransmitter production because cognitive health is driven by your gut-brain communication, right?
I also feel that sometimes what happens is that autoimmune conditions that autoimmunity also causes this because I have seen a
Yeah.
lot of cases where people they're not able to do any work on their own
It's
and
it's it's both ways, you know. So CFS causes automatic causes CFS because of leaky gut. And if you see people who have CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, have an high production of various antibodies, right? And we know why we have antibodies if there's something translocated inside your bloodstream or different organs, your immune system gets into act and start using antibodies to do inflammation and to kill those, whether it is food particles or whether it is bacteria, right? So again, leaky gut is something very, very the most important aspect of chronic fatigue syndrome, right? So just subscribing to, medicine is not going to work. It is further going to deteriorate the situation. It's going to be counterproductive, right? So
which
ideally, you
brings
should.
me which brings me to my next question here that many people do ask us that what is the best way to manage chronic fatigue syndrome without medications. This question has been asked many times on various forums. I've seen that. So I think today we should be able to answer these questions and whether this syndrome is reversible or it can be only managed.
So, you have to understand this is a condition. It is for every disease, but especially for chronic fatigue syndrome or any, because it is linked to a lot of other conditions, right? These conditions manifest not overnight or just few months back because you had some antibiotics. It is because of endless bad activities or wrong choices you have been doing for so many years, right? These manifest at least 15 years before you actually start experiencing it, right? So essentially, uh, the way forward is not to get in too much of a vicious cycle of antibiotics and drugs. Probably you should understand your physiology. You should understand, the imbalance in your gut microbiome. And again, where I'm saying is not. So a lot of people would talk about, okay, you have this bacteria, you have that bacteria, doesn't matter. What matters is what functions they perform, what genes they express, what pathways they activate, right? So that is more important. So probably you should learn whether you have what is your bitrate production, what is your LPS production, whether there is a lot of fermentation going on which is causing overproduction of D-lactic acid, or is ammonia production. So there are multiple things that you should look at, right? Here, which pathways are being activated by your microbiome. Again, even your oral microbiome, because a lot of people have not considered this, but the microbes in the mouth is linked to every single chronic disease, if not all, mostly 90% of the chronic disease, right? Even the chronic fatigue syndrome. So people who have chronic fatigue syndrome also have sore throat, right? So that's again an indication of something bad going on inside your mouth. Maybe Physiobacterium nitrodem is something which uh, causes this, right? So again, it expresses certain genes which causes it, right? So that, and again, because there are these bacteria, Physiobacterium nitrodem is said to cause digestive issues, and again, people who have chronic fatigue syndrome also have digestive issues. There is an interlinkage, right? So essentially, understand your physiology. Do not fall for any, antibiotic recommendation or fat diet recommendations which fix your microbiome, because microbiome is something which plays a key role in your health and disease. So that is something which we should focus on.
I think that's correctly pointed out here. You have made it very clear, and I think a lot of people also do take supplements, multivitamins, and there are supplements made of herbal extracts, which they feel that it is safe to consume. But I feel that there are some repercussions to it because first they're synthetic, they are not the natural form of vitamins, and because our body, the microbiome is responsible for the production of vitamins, right? We have
Yeah.
mentioned this earlier. Now, what happens to those people who have been on supplements for all their life for managing this chronic fatigue? Because
See,
medications, the drugs, antibiotics, they are one part of the story, but then there are supplements coming up these days that you have this and this tea and this herbs and I don't know what all things. So
mm.
I there is nothing against all these things, but I think when it comes to people taking them in a synthetic form, let's say in a tablet or in a syrup or something like that, so how feasible it is for people to take these things?
see, there are uh, two forms of healthcare what we are seeing today, right? One is the current modern healthcare where, what we do is, okay, we go for a blood test, we see I have vitamin D deficiency, I have vitamin B12 deficiency, blah, 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 right? We start taking it, we start taking capsules, we start buying these supplements from the market, right? Which are standard, made to scale, over the counter, right? Which have a standard amount of each of these ingredients, each of these food substrates, right? But the point is, first of all, we don't know why we have these deficiencies, right? First thing. Second thing is how much of each we should take. Third thing, obviously, you said, synthetic form, right? So you have if you have a leaky gut, you will have multiple deficiencies. So you will end up taking a lot of uh, you know, supplements, and these would overload. These have a lot of metals also. Synthetic form is there's a lot of metals, and which could overload your liver and kidneys, which could impact again further cause inflammation. So these are few things. Other things you have to understand, uh, why I have a particular deficiency, or why I am being subscribed to a herb, right? For instance, if you talk of what we generally take in India is curcumin, right? Right. And people say curcumin is really good, is really inflammatory, and blah blah blah, all these things, right? But this if people who have high bile acid, you know, its curcumin is really, really harmful. It can further make your bile acid, your more of secondary bile salts in your gut, and which could cause diarrhea, could cause inflammation. So essentially, you have to understand how each of the supplement would impact various pathways, right? For instance, your drumsticks, right? The other day we were talking about drumsticks. Drumsticks are used by a lot of people in South India in preparing sambar and a lot of these things, right?
Then
But
moringa tablets, they're also very popular these days.
yeah,
Moringa leaf
yeah.
tablets and also
So
neem
yeah, so
leaves. So
you know, we have to understand the specific pathways as I mentioned about as I mentioned about your curcumin, right? Similarly, ashwagandha, people who have histamine, ashwagandha is harmful, right? So the we have to see. You don't have to see in isolation. Probably, I have this. First, you understand why you have an nutrient deficiency. So probably people who are on antacids and PPIs, right, which shells off your stomach acid, so you don't get to absorb iron, vitamins, copper, right, calcium, lot of these things, right. And again, you become anemic. Iron is something we require, right? You become anemic also because again, I don't get too much technicality because also because of these antacids also suppresses your nitric oxide production. So again, it is linked to your oxygen take delivery and a lot of these things. Right? So so coming into this, so coming to your answer to this question is that first of all, if you have some vitamin deficiency, right? It is not about consumption, it's also about absorption because a lot of these microbes are involved in synthesis of various vitamins. For instance, B vitamins are something provided by your gut microbiome. Vitamin D, activation of vitamin D is done by microbiome. Magnesium, right, which is one of the most essential thing in terms of people who have oxidative stress or who are at risk of type 2 diabetes or mitochondrial dysfunction. Magnesium is really beneficial, because magnesium, actually in case of oxidative stress or reactive oxidative species, magnesium helps in, neutralizing it, right? So that there's no mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So, we have to understand why you have a particular deficiency, right? uh, which specific supplement I need, how much you need, right? And if you're talking of food extracts and herbs, which particular pathway it would activate, right? So these are really essential. I mentioned the best example of a curcumin and ashwagandha, right? Similarly, vitamin B3, if you're taking niacin, right? Uh, Probably it is really harmful for people who have high uric acid, right? Or NMN. NMN again is a version of vitamin B3, which is now being promoted as some for slowing your aging and longevity. But again, NMN is really harmful in terms of because what it does it improves your mitochondrial biogenesis, right? If you already have a lot of mitochondrial biogenesis going on, it causes a lot of reactive oxygen species, which could cause oxidative stress and cytokine storm, which is further inflammation, right? So it's not always beneficial to have uh, NMN as or any supplement. Oh, this is going to help me, right? So supplements are meant to supplement your nutrition. It is meant to take care of your nutrient requirements provided when you are undergoing a lot of inflammation, right? So that, for instance, if you suppose you have tomato virus or you have a high histamine production, probably tomato is not beneficial, but tomato is really high in lycopene, right? Again, your body needs lycopene because it's an antioxidant, right? But if you're not getting the tomatoes, other hacks, so probably you should. Guava is high in lycopene. If you even can't guava because of certain inflammatory activities going on, then probably you take lycopene as a supplement, right? And again, it depends how much of lycopene you need, right? So it's not that easy that your blood work shows some deficiency, you start consuming it, right? It is really harmful to actually do that. Yeah. So again, supplements have to be very precise based on your unique biology, what pathways each of the supplement would activate, what herbs would food extract. It will really help or not, it will won't help. Yeah.
So I think with this we have come to the end of this talk. Would you like to conclude this talk with some interesting information for our listeners?
Yeah, so I would like to say, chronic fatigue syndrome. First thing is differentiate between fatigue and chronic fatigue. Fatigue is something you may have one day, you may not have other day because of, maybe your mental stress or a lot of work you're doing, or probably you're not having your nutrients in time, right? But chronic fatigue syndrome is something which you're constantly having over 6 months, over more than 6 months, even after having good amount of sleep, having nutrients, right? Even you're having this probably this underlying causes of gut dysbiosis or a leaky gut situation, or probably your body is producing too much of LPS. So probably people who are obese, right, having high production of LPS, right, and also have chronic fatigue syndrome, right? So understand your gut and even oral microbiome, because microbes in the mouth also can cause this, right? And it is also because microbes in the mouth also causes your IBD, right? So it's interlinked. So do not fall for any sort of medications. Understand your biology and fuel your microbiome with the right set of nutrients.
Thank you, Sushant. I think with this, we conclude this talk here. And for all our listeners, thank you. You have been so kind for listening to our talks. And keep listening to us. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you.